Speaker.
I call Andrew Williams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I take a call on behalf of New Zealand First in the Kaipara District Council Validation of Rates and Other Matters Bill. Mr Speaker, communities all around New Zealand, and in particular on our coastline, experiencing over the last decade or so increasing demands for the treatment of wastewater and stormwater. Communities are up for significant amounts of money to cover the costs of upgrading to reduce the spillage into our waterways and into our harbours, and as a result the Mangawhai scheme is an example of that, where the local council, Kaipara District Council, was required in conjunction with the Northern Regional Council to address how it would curtail the problems from runoff from septic tank systems and small communal systems in the Mangawhai area. During the late 90s and early 2000s, a scheme was proposed for Mangawhai to put in a central wastewater scheme. And during that period it was developed so that it would provide for 21 kilometres of sewers, 18 kilometres of property drains to property drains, 15 pumping stations, 6 kilometres of rising mains, a new wastewater treatment plant and 110,000 cubic metre storage dam. A sizable scheme, Mr Speaker. It was designed to cope with a population of 3,000 and in the summer a peak of up to 8,200 people who move up onto that Northland coast. During that period in the early 2000s and the mid-2000s, the people of Mangawhai and ratepayers of the Kaipara District were consulted on the basis of that scheme to the point of a $31 million project. And as a result of that consultation, the Council determined in August of 2005 that they would proceed with the project, and they negotiated a facility with ABN AMRO to the tune of $31 million. In October of that year, they appointed a company by the name of EarthTech to design, construct and operate the eco-care facilities, and in so doing they commenced to draw down the loans. In May of 2006, some 9 months later, Kaipara District Council appointed Becker Limited to manage the implementation of eco-care. And Becker is a well-known consulting firm based in Auckland who provide to local authorities all over New Zealand. They were there to oversee the implementation because the company EarthTech was Melbourne-based, and it was seen by the council it was preferable to have a local, sizable consultancy firm to oversee it. And this is where it starts getting a bit hazy, because within 1 year, in December 2007, the project deed was amended and the ABN AMRO loan facility was increased to $53 million. The people had been consulted up to $31 million, and suddenly the council took out a facility with ABN AMRO for $53 million. Subsequently to that, the council then borrowed actually $58 million to fund the project. During that whole period of time, there was no consultation with the people of Mangawhai or the people of the Kaipara District, but that council took on huge increased debts to cover it. This was a sign of extremely poor governance by the council, by the mayor, by the deputy mayor, and by the management, and in particular the CEO of the Kaipara District Council, who had been a CEO there for some 18 years. It was concerning, Mr Speaker, that during the Select Committee hearings, I questioned some of the attendees, and I asked a councillor who attended from the Kaipara District, but surely in your quarterly financial reviews that councils are provided with, and councillors should be provided with, it would have shown a rocketing amount of funding going into the scheme and borrowing going into the scheme in their regular quarterly financial reviews. I was appalled to be told that the councillors of the Kaipara District Council were not provided with such quarterly financial reviews, and in fact the councillor had been denied that information by the CEO and by the council. I give an example. When the North Shore City Council built a $110 million outfall pipe on the North Shore while I was Mayor of the North Shore, it was originally budgeted at just over $110 million. When we came to commencement of construction, it was signed off at being $116 million. When it was finally completed, it came in at just close to $120 million. This was a massive 6-kilometre, 2.8 metre diameter pipe, a huge project, but we managed to contain it, and during that whole project, our council and our councillors and the management received regular reviews on how that project was going and how the costings were going on it. But in this case with Kaipara, that did not happen and it ballooned out. During that same period, Mr Speaker, the Audit Office gave its annual audits of the Kaipara District Council, and I am also appalled that the Audit Office during that whole period of time with the annual reviews did not pick up that this was an absolutely ballooning disaster waiting to happen. During that period of time, the ratepayers themselves started sounding the alarms, and I give full credit to all those ratepayers who did so, including the Mangawhai Residents and Ratepayers Association. They started raising the alarm bells, and it fell on deaf ears, and then they were told to go away. They were ignored, and yet they were onto something. During that period of time, ABN AMRO were taken over by the Royal Bank of Scotland, who in turn went under and were sold to Lloyds Bank. Lloyds Bank then passed on the loans to the National Bank, and the National Bank subsequently was taken over by the ANZ Bank, or was merged with the ANZ Bank. I am advised that those book value loans today are nothing like the book value loans that were taken originally by ABN AMRO, and in fact the ANZ Bank now is sitting on those loans at a considerably written down value. In that respect, therefore, the ratepayers of Mangawhai and the Kaipara District are still being required to repay those sizable loans at the full book rate. However, it would appear that the New Zealand bankers are making a healthy margin out of this, and in that respect, we are calling on the government to intervene and have proper talks with the ANZ Bank to get this back on track and see how much they can discount these loans by in order to ensure that the ratepayers themselves are not left out of pocket and paying for something which the ANZ Bank actually didn't end up taking up. At the same time, Mr Speaker, there needs to be a review in terms of some of the people involved, the likes of the contractors, the likes of EarthTech, the likes of Becca, the likes of the CEO for 18 years of the Kaipara District Council, the likes of the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor who had a big involvement in this whole thing. It all needs to be investigated, Mr Speaker, and they need to be held to account. And we're very pleased that as part of this bill that there is an allowance for people to go after them and sue those who have been found to be negligent, and in fact whether there has been any unlawful actions on the part of some of those people. Mr Speaker, I was most concerned that one clause in the bill, which I requested be removed, said that Part 3G, this would also validate any other actions or omissions of the Council relating to the financial years 2006-7 to 2012-13 inclusive. That basically gave carte blanche validation to this whole thing in terms of any other omissions that the Kaipara District Council had undertaken. I was pleased that that was removed from the bill. Mr Speaker, in closing, I would just like to say all credit to the ratepayers. A legal opinion has come through to me which said the illegalities in entering the loans are not mere technicalities or formalities. They go to the heart of local government's obligation to consult ratepayers before entering into large financial commitments and whether rates can be set to cover illegal loans. The widest solution should involve government providing leadership to broker a deal with the Kaipara District Council and the lender banks to fill the financial gap faced by the Kaipara District Council. The bill retrospectively validates illegally set rates and is not right. Mr Speaker, I do commend the work of the Commissioners who have worked hard on this. They are in an invidious situation in being basically given a hospital pass to try and sort this out. However, despite their work to try and do this, it cannot belie the fact that people have acted in an appalling manner in terms of the governance of this council, in terms of the management of this council, and in terms of those contracted to this council. And New Zealand First and the New Zealand First caucus cannot support this bill, and we wish Parliament to ensure that those who are culpable in this matter are brought to account.
I call Jackie Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am disappointed that New Zealand First cannot find themselves being able to support this bill.